unterkomplex, undifferenziert und ideologisch aufgeladen. Es macht keinen Sinn. Also Kritik in den eigenen Reihen findet nicht mehr statt. Die Scheuklappen sind maximal ausgeprägt. Also man schafft es, jedes noch so abscheuliche Verbrechen, jede noch so demokratiefeindliche Allianz irgendwie zu kontextualisieren, weil es macht schon Sinn, dass es irgendwie alles so passiert, wie es passiert, den letzten vulgär pazifistischen Forderungen folgt, instant irgendeine Vernichtungsfantasie und die sollen verrecken und die sollen jetzt einfach mal verschwinden. Es ist einfach nur noch dumm. Es gibt nur noch dieses eine Thema. Es ist die ultimative moralische Frage, an der, je nachdem, wen du fragst, bemessen wird, bist du gut oder bist du böse. Und die Leute sind mittlerweile wirklich ideologisch so wahnhaft unterwegs, dass ich sagen würde, lass die los. Das macht keinen Sinn mehr. Das Problem ist, die lassen uns nicht los. Und deswegen kann ich mir, glaube ich, auch fast sparen, hier nochmal das Konzept von Räumen anzubringen und zu sagen, vielleicht überlegen wir uns, wann reden wir wie, über was und was sind die Konsequenzen, die sich daraus ergeben, weil wer profitiert davon, wenn du nicht mehr mit anderen Linken zum Sport gehen kannst, um dich fit zu halten, wenn du nicht mehr in Clubs gehen kannst mit einem Awareness-Konzept, mit einem linken Grundgedanke, weil es politisch völlig aufgeladen ist, du nicht mehr deinen Alltag vergessen kannst, wenn linke Lokalpolitiker keine Politik mehr machen dürfen, weil sie vergessen, über irgendwelche Themen zu reden, wenn linke Räume. 2024 war kein besonders gutes Jahr. Der sowieso schon unscharfe Fokus hat sich stellenweise komplett aufgelöst. Der ist non-existentes Jahr war geprägt von Diskussionen, Enttäuschung, am Ende auch Aufspaltung. Deswegen kann ich nur dasselbe sagen, was ich immer am Ende von solchen Videos sage. Und es ist, setzt euch jetzt auf euren Arsch, guckt, wer stabile, lokale, politische Arbeit macht und supportet diese Leute. Und vielleicht muss man hier und da auch mal einen Abstrich machen, wenn man nicht immer einer Meinung ist. Wenn ich mich jetzt mit Nam zusammensetzen würde und wir Stunden über den Nahen Osten reden, da gibt es bestimmt ganz viele Sachen, wo wir nicht einer Meinung sind. Aber vielleicht ist es auch okay für den Raum, für den Kontext, in dem wir miteinander interagieren. Und vielleicht gibt es nicht immer nur nach Sachen, wo man eben nicht einer Meinung ist und sich abreiben kann, sondern eher nach Sachen, wo man sagt, okay Digga, da bringen wir jetzt einen Konsens, jetzt setzen wir uns jetzt zusammen und versuchen das so gut wie es geht irgendwie durchzupushen. Und das ist tatsächlich mein Vorsatz für 2025. Ich bin ein absoluter kleiner, widerlicher Hater. Das ist mein Content, das wird auch weiter so passieren, aber vielleicht versuche ich trotzdem noch mehr eben genau den Konsens, irgendwas, was produktiv ist, und dann kann man die Scheiße auch zusammen angehen.
Ja, ich schließe mich dem an, aber ich hab das für mich in gar kein Problem. Ich denke, da kommt halt wieder das Anekdotische raus. Also ich möchte erstmal ganz kurz für mich sagen, ich finde es schade, wenn das, was hier gerade von Vincent beschrieben wurde, auf einer lokalpolitischen Ebene halt irgendwie der Standard ist. Ne? Das ist schade. Ne? Das ist aber ganz und gar nicht so apokalyptisch, wie es vielleicht auch in erster Linie erscheint. Keine Ahnung. Es ist halt einfach schade. In meiner Wahrnehmung, aber das liegt auch an der Tatsache, was ich mache, habe ich über das Jahr 2024 hier einen Raum für Leute geschaffen, die meinem politischen Verständnis nach based und stabil unterwegs sind. Und wenn Leute es nicht sind, dann können die sich entweder gut einfügen oder tolerieren zumindest das, was ich sage, so sehr, dass das irgendwo ein Steckpunkt ist. Also ich finde es sehr, sehr based, was jetzt hier los ist. Und das ist natürlich nicht lokal, sondern das ist überregional und sehr, sehr verstreut. Aber in meiner Wahrnehmung ist das hier auf der Internetplattform Twitch allgemein schon im deutschen Raum besser geworden denn je. Also wir haben, jetzt mal ganz ehrlich, ne? Also wir haben von den politischen Content-Creators, die groß genug sind, ob sie sich nun wie Drakon energiepolitisch spezialisiert haben und auch politisch, aber so energiepolitisch mit hier ihren Quellensachen und so, oder Karl, der sich nochmal anders ausgeprägt hat, aber auch in die ähnliche Richtung marschiert, und ich da, also welchen Punkt man da jetzt nimmt, ne? Ob man da jetzt sagt, hier, dass man einen Freiraum-Restream guckt, so morgens oder sowas, aber das sind ja alles linkspolitische Akteure, ne? Und ich glaube, die Option, dem Content dieser Art zuzuwenden, war nie besser. Also man hatte nie eine bessere Auswahl. Also du kannst in den Nuancen sicherlich Unterschiede haben. Du kannst persönliche Sympathien haben, die der oder der nicht abdeckt. Aber wenn es um ich habe sicherlich auch Leute vergessen, ne? Aber wenn es um allgemeinen politischen Content geht, ne, der öffentlich stattfindet, dann sind wir im Twitch-Dachbereich wirklich gut aufgestellt. Also, es gibt da natürlich Ausreißer und es gibt auch ein paar Verschwurbelte, aber die sind bei weitem nicht so groß wie das Kollektiv, was wir darstellen. Also nicht mal annähernd. Und ich meine mit Fokus auf politische Inhalte. Ne? Da bist du hier drin oder draußen, weiß ich nicht, aber also du hast auf jeden Fall eine Menge Auswahlmöglichkeiten, deswegen würde ich sagen, kommt das in meinem auf der Plattform, auf der ich aktiv bin, einfach, also es kommt sehr gut rüber. Ne? Ja. Weiß ich nicht. Und jetzt kommt Vincent noch dazu, den ich eigentlich auch sehr based einschätze. Und ich meine nicht, dass es nicht sein kann, dass irgendein großer Content Creator, der normalerweise sich nicht mit politischen Sachen auseinandersetzt, der normalerweise nicht, der halt eher irgendwie andere Sachen macht, wenn er mal was Verschwurbeltes zu irgendwelchen politischen Sachen sagt. Das passiert auch. Aber die Leute, die sich hauptsächlich um sowas kümmern, so eine meinungskontent-orientierte Funktion haben, die dann halt sehr politisch ist und sehr gesellschaftskritisch. Oder eigentlich bewegen wir uns da in eine sehr gleiche Richtung. Ich finde das auch gut so. Ich möchte, dass das auch weiter so wird. Und ich hoffe, dass das nächstes Jahr auch wieder so ist. Ja, dass die Kanäle alle wachsen, im Großen und Ganzen, dass sich die Leute spezialisieren, aber dass das weiter so wird. Das ist ja wichtig. Ne? Du hast jetzt gerade ganz toll eine Bubble beschrieben. Ja, jeder operiert in Bubbles. Willkommen im Internet, wo ausschließlich in Bubbles operiert wird. Jeder in seiner, aber ausschließlich so. Hä? Das ist doch eine Wahrheit, die man auch anerkennen muss. Aber crazy, dass diese Scheiße hier in Leipzig passiert ist, ne? Also, komm on. Bist fucking bad. Oh no. Ich hoffe, das kommt nicht nochmal vor. Und wenn nicht, dann hat es ja zum Glück keinen großen Einfluss darauf gehabt, was in Leipzig passiert ist, denn Jungen wurde ja gewählt. Ne? Also der ist ja per Direktmandat da gewählt worden, meines Wissens nach, außer ich habe mich jetzt komplett verschossen in der Wahrnehmung, ne?
I must leave no stone unturned. Time to clean up.
Cool it. Don't get frostbite. Lightning flash! Following thunder!
überspringen, sonst Copyright. No.
An entitled Karen attacks me in Walmart, all because I scared her daughter because of my Halloween costume. But once the cops were called, I decided to press charges, resulting in this entitled Karen going straight to jail. Here's what happened. Okay, so this event happened back in the week of Halloween in 2002. Now, Halloween was on a Thursday that year, and the costume party I was attending was the Saturday before on the 26th. This will be important to the story, but also it's important to know that I was recovering from a stroke that I had had 3 months prior. Anyways, my stepbrother was throwing a costume party at his house, and I was really looking forward to it, especially since I hadn't done much socially the past few months. My friend and I were excited to go. I was dressed up as Uncle Fester from the Addams Family, and my friend was going as Zorro. And we had to make a pit stop at the nearby Walmart so that my friend could grab a plastic sword for his costume. And I decided to pick up a few extra snacks and drinks, so I went as well. We would get stopped by random customers who complimented our costumes, and we would thank them, but we were men on a mission. Once we grabbed everything we needed, we headed straight to the checkout lines. I should also note that I deal with some social anxieties, so I was looking around to assess my surroundings while waiting in line. Well, this is when the entitled Karen of this story comes into play. She absolutely looked the part, down to the blonde hair and the costume jewelry. She had a little girl in the cart who screamed like crazy the instant she saw me. I immediately began to apologize to this Karen, stating that frightening her daughter was not my intent. But before I could even finish, she cuts me off and gives me the tongue lashing of a lifetime. She says to me, "Who do you think you are, going around like this, scaring innocent little kids when it's not even Halloween? What is wrong with you?" We then locked eyes, and I responded by saying, "You're right that it's a few days before Halloween, but all the parties are tonight. But I'm a reasonable man, so I'll tell you what, I'll remove my face makeup if you take off your mask." She then starts to respond by saying, "But I'm not wearing a mask." "Oh, you absolute jerk, how dare you speak to me like that?" I then say to her, "But I did. So what now?" It was then that I was met with a sudden sharp pain to my knees as I fell over. This entitled Karen rammed her cart right into me. As I was still recovering from my stroke, my equilibrium was lacking and I fell straight to the ground. The cashier in our lane immediately paged for a manager and loss prevention, and Karen attempted to backtrack and leave the lane. But as it was, 2 other customers had blocked her in. As my friend was helping me back onto my feet, I saw the manager and loss prevention rushing over to see the commotion. The manager and I sat on a nearby bench, also that I could explain everything that happened, and loss prevention led Karen in the opposite direction. And after a few minutes, a police officer approaches. I greet the officer, I identify myself, and he asked me if I want to press charges against the Karen for attacking me. And I happily told him absolutely. The cop radios to a partner, and a minute later, I see a Karen being escorted out in handcuffs, followed by another officer carrying her young daughter. Now, when it comes to the Karen herself, she was formally charged and ended up with a $1,500 fine and having 14 days in jail. But looking back, I really should thank this Karen. The little limp I got from the spill added to my costume, and everybody thought it was intentional, despite the fact that it's because of this crazy entitled Karen. Wow, talk about overreacting. She literally rammed her cart into you after some stupid joke. Like seriously, what is wrong with people like that? It's obvious the original poster was going to like some kind of Halloween party. I mean, it is right around Halloween when this happened. How can this Karen really not connect the dots and be like, "Oh yeah, this is probably for some party, that makes sense." So seriously, good for you for pressing charges, because that entitled Karen absolutely deserved to get in trouble. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking my neighbors not to park their car behind mine, as they've done this multiple times? Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that I live in a triple complex, and there are 3 driveways to this complex. One for the first unit, one for the second unit, and 2 for my unit, which is the biggest unit. All driveways have been spray painted to label which driveways are belonging to which unit. Well, recently my neighbor has been having people stay over at their place for weeks at a time. I really don't care if they have people over. It's not my business and it's not my issue. But recently, they started telling their friends and family to park behind my fiance's work van, which is on our side of the driveway. They did not ask us if this was okay, and it was not just for one day. Eventually, a day came around where we had to ask them to move so that my fiance could open the back doors to his van, as they parked close enough to where he couldn't even open them. Well, they did move their car, and then when we went back back inside, they moved it right back. Mind you, their side of the driveway has space for another car, but they chose to park behind our car. I imagine they tell their friends and families to park behind our van because they move their car during the day and they don't want to have to rearrange cars when they have to leave. Well, I tried to knock on their door to tell them they needed to move their car so my fiance could move and operate his van for work, even just to get his tools out of the back, but they would not answer the door. They have been extremely rude to me in the past for no reason, and they are very new to the complex. So I decided to write a short note and put it on the windshield of their car. The note says the following: please do not park behind this van without asking. I need to be able to get my tools out and get out of this spot because of work. Thank you. Well, for some reason, I just feel guilty, and that they will get upset and go to my landlord and make this into some big issue. So am I the jerk for making the move, or am I overthinking things? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk here. If anyone should be making a bigger deal out of this, it's you. Why on earth are you putting up with this? These people have been rude to you, they've moved their car right back behind your van, and they've generally been very rude neighbors. Like, that's 3 strikes and you're out in my opinion. Because at that point, not only am I going to get the landlord involved, but I might just tow your car while you're at it. If I verbally told you and left a note on your car saying, hey, you can't park here, then you are definitely on thin ice if you choose to do it again. So if I was in your shoes, I would be documenting everything. I would take pictures of every time they parked their car behind my van, and I would timestamp anytime I spoke to them or left a note with a copy of the note just in case they try to dispute it. I would then forward all of this to the landlord and be like, you can either deal with this or I'm going to have the car towed. And I will do that every single time they park behind my van. Because here's the thing, if they were just nice neighbors, all of this could be handled in a reasonable way. But because they want to be jerks about it, that's where the gloves are off. Because then I'm just going to be like, okay, fine, I'll tow your car and think nothing more of it. So no, you're not the jerk for telling these people not to park behind your car, because that really should be the bare minimum that you expect from your neighbor, as these idiots don't sound like good people in the slightest. Am I the jerk for rage quitting after I lost an election, simply because all the votes weren't completely counted? Because after the higher-ups denied me being voted as the president of our organization, while also demanding that I keep quiet about it, I decided to step away, with me being more than willing to watch things fall apart. Here's what happened. So I'm a 28-year-old female, and I've been a member of a large volunteer organization for several years. I am one of the longest-standing members. I have spent hundreds of hours on various aspects of it. I've held small leadership positions in almost every area, and I have a large amount of experience being the president of another organization as well. When I first joined, things were not doing well, so I, along with others, worked our tails off just to improve that, and eventually we did. In fact, we did so well with improving the atmosphere that we had a massive amount of incoming members who quickly became very close with each other and have absolutely no idea how bad things used to be, or how much behind-the-scenes work it takes to maintain the way things are now. I ran for president in the most recent election, and I ran against 5 other candidates. 4 of us had years of experience and had been preparing our campaign for months, if not years. One person, who we will call Alex, was extremely new and only had been there for a few weeks. They had 0 experience at all, decided to run at the last minute, and they had a very large friend group with other new members. Now, Alex was barely allowed to run due to how new they were, but made the cut by a handful of days. And I'm sure you can see exactly where this is going. It was extremely close between me and Alex, and I lost literally by 1 vote. The rest of the elected officials were all new members of the same friend group, also without any experience. It was then that I discovered that 9 to 10 votes, specifically the votes of other people in leadership positions who worked closely with me, were not counted at all. And this was not intentional or malicious, but simply a computer error. Apparently, every single one of them voted for me. I technically had won. They tried to get the election results overturned because of it, but higher-ups would not allow it, because they feared it would look like favoritism. At the end of the day, I was told to keep quiet and not let anyone else know about this, which now brings me up to my current situation. Because nobody on the new executive team has any experience, I started facing a lot of pressure to take on a lower leadership position, solely so that I could guide them and ensure that our hard work doesn't go straight down the tube. But you know what? I absolutely refused. In fact, I've decided to drop all leadership roles and do absolutely nothing this year. This has led to multiple people telling me that I don't really care about the organization and that I will be responsible if it falls apart. I feel like it's a slap in the face to expect me to do what a president does without the title to show for it. So am I the jerk for dropping all leadership positions and letting the new team do whatever they want to do? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Oh wow, this is absolutely unbelievably toxic. I would be losing my mind if I actually won the election and anyone above me tried to be like, oh, just keep quiet about this. course, we don't want anyone to think that this is favoritism, but it's like, what are you talking about? I won the election. Of course it's favoritism. Everybody voted for me. Like, this is an insane precedent to take because you literally saved this volunteer organization. You are the reason that this place hasn't fallen apart, and the fact that you're not recognized for that, in my opinion, is insane. There's no good excuse for that, and I honestly don't blame you for being pissed off. Now, in my opinion, I think you absolutely should scream this from the rooftops. You should tell everybody, hey, the higher-ups don't want me to say this, but this is what's actually going on. And explain to everybody that technically you did win, but the people above you don't want you to say anything about it. And that kind of censorship, in my opinion, is not okay. That is so crazy, it's not even funny. And this is especially easy to prove if you have like a paper trail of some kind. So hopefully this all works out for you, and hopefully you're able to put people in their place when it comes to why you're leaving this all as it is. Because this kind of treatment, in my opinion, is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my fiance that his cousin's girlfriend is not welcome in our new home? Because after the way she treated us, I literally want nothing to do with her. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my fiance for 5 years. Early in our relationship, he and his cousin, who we will call Steve, purchased a house together as co-owners. My fiance's sister and their other cousin also lived there for a while. Now, everything was fine until 2 years later, when Steve started dating a woman who quietly moved into the house after only 4 months of dating. And this upset everyone since it wasn't discussed with the household. She doesn't work, she doesn't go to school, and she doesn't contribute financially. She spends her days reorganizing the house while constantly on the phone with Steve. She's extremely controlling. She goes through his phone, sits in on all of his calls, and ensures that he's always with her or talking to her. He is never alone, even at work or in the car. At first, she seemed really sweet, and the family really liked her, but over time, she began subtly isolating Steve from everybody. She convinced him to have my fiance's sister and their cousin move out, leaving just her, Steve, and my fiance in the house. She made my fiance feel uncomfortable in his own home, and now she plans to have her brother move into Steve's house, which is basically her removing Steve from his own family. Her passive-aggressive behavior is exhausting. She labels communal items like salt with her name on it so no one else can use them. She reorganizes shared spaces filled with things that aren't hers and ignores me completely when I come over. When Steve isn't home, she hides in her room and acts cold and dismissive. She is a completely different person when he is not around, and it's clear that these are her true colors. Some family members have voiced concerns about her controlling behavior to Steve, but he insists that he loves her and he just turns a blind eye. And while she is the instigator, I don't think Steve is completely innocent. He is literally allowing this behavior to happen. Recently, she convinced Steve to buy my fiance out of the house, so now we are moving out in a week. And I am relieved, but honestly, this is where my issue starts. I've told my fiance I don't want her in our new house. I'm fine with Steve visiting, but I don't want her there. If she couldn't show us basic respect while living in a house my fiance co-owned, I refuse to let her treat us poorly in our own space. Now, I don't want to stir the pot or cause any drama, but I also refuse to let my boundaries be disrespected or normalized the way she treats us. My fiance is torn because he wants to maintain his relationship with Steve, but I feel strongly about this boundary. So am I the jerk for saying I don't want Steve's girlfriend in our home? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, I don't think you're the jerk, but truly I think it could be very tricky if you try to make this kind of boundary. Because I guarantee you if Steve's coming over, then his girlfriend is probably going to be there as well. Like, you did describe her as super clingy and weird, so it does seem like this is going to be like a package deal if they go anywhere. So no, you're not the jerk for wanting to set that up, but I really think you need to be ready for any kind of negative consequence. My entitled mom steals from just about anybody she can get in front of, as she has constantly pulled scam after scam all throughout my childhood. And now I no longer talk to her because this is something I don't want to deal with. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mother is not a very nice person, just to say the least. She is a lazy person who doesn't like to work and can never stay in one job or one house or keep one car. She is habitually homeless. Thankfully, I live with my dad now, but I still had to live with her for 14 years and deal with her garbage that she put me through. Here are some of the scams that she pulled. When I was 6 years old, she made me do Shave for the Brave and raise money for a kid who had cancer. She raised over $500 on Facebook for this kid and his family, and she ended up keeping all the money from the fundraiser. Also, for anyone who's wondering, the kid is someone that I knew as a baby, but thankfully he is okay and he did recover from the cancer. The last time I spoke to him was a few years ago and he was doing great. She also organized a basketball camp in our hometown for kids. She took registration fees from the parents and then canceled the event and kept all the money, leaving 20 to 30 people without their $200. When she faced backlash, she used that money to take her and her friend to Las Vegas for a a month where she drank a lot and played the casino. She also kept asking for money from my grandparents, and when they cut her off, she threatened to keep me and my sisters from them unless they gave her money. She also stole $400 out of my wallet for groceries, and that money was my birthday money from various family members. And that's what she actually told me. She said it was for groceries when I noticed it was missing. There were no groceries, but there was a good few bottles of wine that she spent the next few days drinking in the garage. She would call into restaurants like McDonald's and say that she had the wrong order when she didn't even order anything, and then just go back and get a free meal. Honestly, there's so much more, but this perfectly describes my mom as a person, which perfectly sums up why I don't talk to her anymore. Wow, your mom literally is a con artist. She has literally stolen from people and taken money by any means necessary. So to that end, I don't blame you for cutting her off, because she does not sound like a good person to be around in the slightest. Am I the jerk for making my colleague work different hours and for not caring about her money after I declined riding with her to work in her car? Because right now I am literally being blamed for something that's not my fault, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So ever since April, I've had to take the train to get to my work. I work from 7 in the morning until 3 o'clock, but I have to get up at 5 in the morning to not be late for my train at 6. I've gotten used to this and I feel no need to ask anybody for a ride. But we have a new coworker who I will call Sarah for the sake of the story, who is really polite and funny, and overall I like her a lot. Sarah is from my town and recently asked me if I would like to drive to her work with her since she has a car and I don't. Now I have considered it, but because I have a lot of discounts as a student, the cost of taking the train is 4 times less than what I would have to pay if I drove with her, and that's even if we split the cost of gas in half. So I decided to politely decline. Well, here's the issue. This happened 2 weeks ago, and now some of my other colleagues told me that I was the jerk for refusing. I also found out that Sarah talked garbage about me behind my back, all because of this situation. They said that because I refused, she has to pay full price for gas, and she's also young and needs the money. Additionally, as I said, I work from 7 to 3, but my other coworkers work from 8 to 4. If I agreed to drive with Sarah, our boss agreed to let her have work from 7 to 3 as well, which is something that Sarah would prefer. Apparently, I should have taken this into consideration, even though she didn't mention this at all. But honestly, even if she told me about it, I still wouldn't change my mind. I then got accused of making her work different hours on purpose, and for being heartless for making another young woman like me throw away any kind of money. And I think that's so ridiculous. I'm 21 years old and I'm trying to save money for rent. I want to move out of my parents' house next year, and I also pay for my university, so I try to save every penny. Sarah is still trying to convince me to agree, but as for now, I still said no. I feel like Sarah should take the train as well, even though she's not a student and won't get a discount, but even still, it's cheaper than buying gas, because that's what she needs to do if she wants to save money. I'm sure our boss would still let her work from 7 to 3 then, but at the same time, I understand that for Sarah, driving is much more comfortable than taking the train.